Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
We are back. I really don't like that.
No, not at all.
I hope it doesn't come up on the recording.
Hopefully not.
I'll have to talk to Nick. I don't know. Have you listened to the Drywall podcast at all? He does
Not really.
he does a really good job. He
Yeah.
edits it all, and he does these wonderful intros and speaks very highly of you. And I'm just like, this trash podcast. I just like the conversation, right? It's in the amount of time and editing and stuff. Like, I would much rather do 3 or 4 a week than do one really well a week. Does that make sense? Yeah.
No, because this way you're actually getting to know the person because
Totally.
you're just talking
Yeah.
instead of it's it's all edited and you just.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's what Cameron Brown said when he came on. At the end of it all, he's like, we didn't even have a phone call before. And I'm like, I know, I like that. Because a lot of the shit that I'm gonna ask you and stuff on a phone call, I like, this is in my opinion the right place to do it. Maybe everybody wants to know that stuff. Okay,
yeah, because when you're a phone call and you get the information, then you get it again on the podcast,
and then it's weird. Yeah. My very first one, Josh and I were talking for 10 minutes prior, and I was super excited. The CSR thing, I went right from there into the first podcast, so I was humming. And he's a taper. He wished that he had gone, so it was this cool. We drank tequila. It was awesome. But we talked for 10 minutes, and then we started the podcast again, CSR, and it felt very fake.
Yeah.
For 2 minutes, and then we got into talking again. So I just don't do it anymore. You said you want to be a site super on the other podcast, and I would. No, you don't.
Really?
Oh, it's just terrible. Why do you want to be why?
Because I'll be the big boss. I'll be running everybody instead of just one crew.
Okay.
Is that the bad part? Because you're running everybody?
No, that's the good part. That's what I'm in love with, is the dance, right? Because that's effectively what I call it, is, this comes in and that goes out, and there's a perfect way to do it. And scheduling meetings between people where if we all talk for 5 minutes, there's gonna be no headaches in a week from now, because everybody knows what's going on. And it's this like you're the conductor, right?
Yeah.
But when the instruments don't play, you're not a good conductor, even if you want to be a good conductor, right? And so it all kind of comes down to that stuff. The reason why I ask you is, if you're either going to fall in love with the process, or you're going to fall in love with building things. And if you've fallen in love with building things, that's taken away from you.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get to. Even if you want to, you can't.
I know, but I also know it's a big toll on your body. And
oh, totally.
I'm a small female that my body's already taking a toll, and I'm 24, that I know I'm not going to be able to do it by the time I hit 30.
Yep. Yeah. That's why I want to have the conversation with you, because I'm not telling you not to do it. I want to pick your brain as to why. And those are great answers. Those are thought out answers.
I like to plan. So I'm I know having, because obviously I'm going to have maternity leave when I plan to have a family and all that I'm having your own business, you don't get that. Working on site, it's going to be hard if you get pregnant or having a family or anything, and then being doing this and your body's already falling apart. You're I need a plan for my end career.
And I still get offers out in Toronto that's another 50 or 70% more.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of money in being a site super. It's just fucking miserable. Every problem is your fault, and no matter what, if you can kind of take that, at the end of the day, everybody understands. But shit travels downhill, and you are at the top.
Yeah,
right?
You
so
get
it's
yelled at by everybody.
It lands on you every time. And people make promises under you, and that it's not gonna happen. But you can't. You're either going to be calling people out and making them look bad in front of clients, or you're going to listen to them and know that they're going to kill you at the end of it. Because you're you can't do that in 6 days. No, you can't. I can't, and I'm better than you, and but you can't have those conversations. It's stuff like that where it kind of now that there's women in the trades, I need a better term for this, but I call it getting kicked in the nuts, because that's effectively what it is. Where it just shuts you down, where it's like, that wasn't very fun. With kind of the presence and the connection, and probably by the time that you're there, the amount of people that you know, I would imagine that you'll get into a big company, or you'll own the company or something like that, and you'll have a lot more control over the trades that you're using. That's a
quality.
That's the thing. That's what was so attractive about Manny, is he's like, I don't care what you think's expensive. This is the way to do it. And if you don't want to pay that price, then you can't have it. Like, that's just the way that it is. And go to somebody else and they'll do a shitty job for you, and they'll use the amount of money that you have. And that, I would love to be there one day, where it's like, I don't want to win them all, right? I would like to win some of them very well. And
there's even a quote or something saying like, you're paying for the outcome, not just like a really bad job or something. It's not worded properly there. I don't know how they word it, but when you're paying big money, you're paying for the experience level, the good quality.
My first tattoo, my first good tattoo, there was a sign on the wall that said, good tattoos aren't cheap and cheap tattoos aren't good. And I walked out of there with an awesome tattoo and was like, that was expensive.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, people notice. It's when you walk into a house and you see that everything's been done perfection, that just screams. There's like a certain amount of integrity that comes along with that. It's I really do like it. And there's a lot of things that people don't see and they're not going to catch, but
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's very interesting, because I guess you've been a foreman before because you've run crews, and then you've been a business owner, which is another huge one.
It's a lot.
It's that amount of juggling. When you can juggle, you can do it as big as you want. It's just the amount of stress that you want to put yourself under.
Yeah, and because I was so young and a female and everything, it was really hard to get people to listen to me too. So I was like, I'll try this again in a few years.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I went through the same thing. I very quickly turned into, in any group of people, I'm very quickly becoming the leader, not because I've said so, but because people will listen and follow. I don't know.
Tell you what you're doing.
I think that's what it is there's a level of confidence. And then when I don't know something, I say I don't know. And then we figure it out. Like, none of us are stupid. Let's just figure it out. But I'm not the guy that blindly leads people. So I think maybe that's what it was. But because of that, I was given positions to lead. And there were guys that were 10 years older than me reporting to me. And they're like, you don't know. So I'm like, okay. So I started just like butting heads with people, because I'm also a huge guy. So it's like, you want to throw down? Like, what do you really like? We're not arguing here. Go and do your job. There was never this worry that someone was going to kick my ass. Luckily.
I mean, I have that worry, but
I was going to say that. Yeah, it's a little different. Just carry that hammer with you. But guys would say, I've been doing this for 30 years. And I got so tired of hearing it that I would be like, I don't care how long you've been fucking this up for, but it stops today. Because that was the answer. It's at the end of the day, you would leave these guys to do it their way, and then you'd have to come back and pick it apart and show them what you would have done differently and how it would have been better. And then you do gain that respect, but you did lose the day.
Oh, right?
Yeah. It's got to be redone now. So I don't want to do this again.
You don't have to do that day again, because they already know.
That's right. Yeah, that's I do understand that part of it, but definitely not the woman in the trade part, or the being small part. Yeah, it's
it has the pros and cons being like a woman. Like, I wouldn't have the following I do if I wasn't a woman, but then also this past week has been actually awful for how guys have talked to me. Okay. And normally okay. I've had like a few occasions here or there, but I have been in it almost 7 years now.
Yeah.
But this past week has been awful. Like one guy came up to us, me and my coworker, she's also a girl. They wanted us to pose for a framing calendar, like a fireman calendar, and wanted us to be on front page and everything. So we had to like tell our boss that happened so that he knew. So now we have to file a report, and we're like, well, we didn't really want to file a report. We just wanted to let you know what was happening so that you were aware.
You do want to do that though, because it's if you there is this like she ratted us out, that is horseshit. It's you made someone feel like shit at work, right? And you've taken like the best way that I can describe that is at the gym, right? When you make someone feel uncomfortable at the gym, that is like a church that they go to, that they get good feelings from, and you've made them not want to do that anymore. That it should be punishable by death, you know? That sucks. And it might not be a big deal, or a guy like, you know, says something inappropriate or whatever, you might take that a certain way and you can sleep at the end of the night, but the next girl might not. You know, or he might get away with it enough that now he grabs someone's ass or something, right? And at the end of the day, it could have stopped the first time, right? And I think there's got to be way more of that.
I know, like unfortunately, this is the second report I'm gonna have to file, like in the course of my time, but
I mean, like 7 years isn't bad,
right?
Pose for pictures to be on a because a fireman calendar is what like women are drooling over. That's what that is.
Yeah,
that's not a fucking tool calendar.
Yeah, that wasn't.
That's totally inappropriate. Yeah, but good. File that report and then post it on Instagram so everyone knows. You know, I was scared to death when I got into teaching. So I've always had this left and right about women in the trades. I love it. I love that we're all equal. You guys are pretty, like the majority of the time, better at the guys doing it because you've got something to prove. And I feel like women are a little bit more like attention to detail a little bit. Like it's not, you're not there fucking around, you're there doing your job. Like a lot of guys just don't fit in everywhere. So they end up here. It's like a funnel that comes down, and it's like every idiot in the world starts here until they find something else. But when I have someone working under me, it's a person that I'm going to put time into. I put that fucking time into them. Like when I think about Terry, was one of 3 that came to me, and he said he didn't know anything, and he kind of didn't, I guess, but he was a really smart kid. And in like 8 months, not even, maybe 3 months, I had him reading prints. Like I was pushing him hard, and it was like, and I wasn't telling him any of it was hard. I was like, everybody does this. I don't know why you're struggling. Like it was, we were framing like 2 weeks worth of framing in a week, and we would walk out of there and I go, I don't know if you can fucking not pick up the pace, or if you tell people you're good at this when you go home. But he turned into a hell of a framer. But we were like, on the stressful days, I was taking him for dinner afterwards. We'd have a couple of drinks. You would decompress. If you're going to stress someone out, you also have to bring them down. You know what I mean? If you're going to lead, you need to lead. And my only worry of that was when women are introduced into the trades, you're going to have a bunch of men who think that they should be better. And then you're going to have a bunch of men that are going to be jealous when the women are taken on like that. And in a position that I was in, I was like, I was scared to death for the girl that came through that was the best, because then it was going to be like, why are you going to dinner? Why are you 2 working on the weekends together? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Where no one would have asked about men, right? So I was like, what a nightmare.
Anytime I'm friends with anyone, it's like you're sleeping together. Oh, you're this.
Immediately.
I'm like, no, thanks. Like, I'm good. I see these guys at work. I deal with them enough. I know. Like I'm dating, obviously, because I live with my boyfriend, but I would never go after someone on the same site or even in the same trade or anything, because I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want to sleep around. I don't want to sleep with people on the job site. I'm good. But why does it have to be that way?
That's what I mean. Because like when I make friends on site, they don't think I'm sleeping with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's but that is right where people go to, and it about 90% of the time it's jealousy.
Oh yeah, I was
It,
either the daughter, the girlfriend, the cousin, like anyone as soon as I was on site, and I was like, no, I'm just a worker.
yeah,
That's it.
you're like a
Like,
little sister, or I'm like your fucking coworker. Like,
yeah,
settle down.
like we can act like
Um,
siblings, but
mhm.
I it just depends how you say it to me.
Yeah, whenever there was women on site, you could tell that they had been through the ringer a little bit, because it was like the joking was still happening, and like they were all part of that, like everybody's locker room shit. But you just had to nip it in the butt when it was like, okay, that's like that's a little inappropriate, like maybe those kind of jokes, or whatever. But it's the
Yeah.
same with like if you've got anybody that's different on site. You know, if it's any of the one of these things is not like the other, we're all the same, right? To treat everyone the same. Part of that struggle though is, do you make everyone do different things because of it, or don't you? Right? Where like men are not sexualizing other men out there, period. So they should
Yeah.
not be doing it with women. But like when they're telling shithead jokes, they are telling them to the men. So do you tell them to stop because women are on site, or do you allow it? And that's the kind of stuff when you're in a leadership position that's tough,
I
because
know it's hard.
you're
It's
either going
like
to
I
sing.
always, yeah, go.
No.
You
I was
go.
going to say you're either going to single them out or you're not, right? And it's you
Yeah,
really do have to think before you start making those decisions. Like,
I know. It's hard. I was always like, when I walked on site, I was like, treat me like one of the guys because that's how you treat your workers. So treat me the same because I am one of your workers. I was okay with, well, I'm still okay with most of the jokes that go on because usually it's not even towards you. It's
oh yeah.
usually guys saying that they're gay for each other, and you're like, okay, cool. But I didn't want to be treated special. I'm like, don't baby me,
Mhm.
don't do stuff just because I'm me. Like, imagine I'm just one of your workers. We all look exactly the
Mhm.
same. Treat me like that because let's be honest, I'm here to do a job. You're paying me for that job, so treat me like I'm here to do that job.
Yeah. If I could tell you what I see people as on a job site, it's pay level. That's
Yeah.
effectively how I see people. Is, if I understand where you're at, that's how you're treated. So like the laborers don't come into the meetings. Sorry. But you had no fucking business there, right? And then on the other hand, when I'm out talking to the guys, why is the project manager here? What the fuck are you doing here? Right? And it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Where that's more or less where I'm singling people out of, like, because you got to know your place too, right? Like when mom and dad are around, you're not having much fun as a teenager, and that's just the way that it is. And you have to let them be fun, but they also need to be supervised sometimes.
Yeah.
um
It can get out of hand.
it can get out of hand. That happens so quick too when uh, that's another thing I wanted to talk about the site supering. So when you're on site and people are working for you, are you their friend or are you their boss?
That's the hard part because, like, when I was like owning the crew and stuff, I like to be friendly, but as soon as it was like, guys, this is a job to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I would put my foot down, but like I'd put it down like still kind of nicely because I'm really bad at a backbone problem.
Yep.
But then I would finally like be like, no, that's enough. Like, get to work because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
paying you to stand around. I sign your paychecks, you don't sign mine.
Yep.
They'd end up calling me a bitch and then quitting. And I'm like, I didn't even put it down that hard. I just stopped being like your bestie.
Yeah, but there are a lot of weak men out there, right?
Yes.
And it's shocking.
Yeah.
If you start taking things away from people, or if you like, ring the bell of like, go do your job, men are the sissiest people
People are
sometimes,
like, you
or it's
want me to work?
raining, or yeah, like the guy that taught me everything in the beginning, nobody wanted to work with him. That's how we got the job. Like we were working out of town, which was miserable. We were in shithole hotels because nobody could uh, behave. Like if we went to a Holiday Inn, we'd be out halfway through the first night. So we're not doing that. We're going to go into, wherever. There was this place called we called it the number 2 because it was a shithole, but it was like the number 5 hotel or something like that. And like I was like, what the hell are we here for? And then the first night party went down, and I was just like, oh, I know what we're here for. Like nobody else would have dealt with that shit, right? Guys are like smoking in the rooms, and it's just like a
Oh
like a
my
free for all,
God.
right? But
that's why you go to there.
Well, yeah. And but that's, nobody wanted to work with him. But like, you worked with him for a little while. Like, you would wince every time he talked because he was this like scary monster or whatever. But like, very quickly, it was just the guys that didn't want to do their job. If you don't want to do your job, I'm not going to be your friend. It's
Yeah, literally.
you're and I'm a very friendly person and I'm very kind, but I'm not here to make any friends, right? We're here to do a job. And if we're doing it all correctly, I love that. Like, I'll
Yeah.
converse with guys and we can, you know, we're gonna talk for almost 2 hours tonight. We never met. It's the same thing. That can be like that on site, or you know, there's like a glance that I'm quite good at where everybody kind of tightens up a little bit and goes back to work. But it's yeah, that's another big one. It's but I think that backbone kind of comes with time,
Yeah,
right?
I started already getting it, and like I've definitely got a bigger backbone than when I first started, but I want to enjoy what I do for a job, and a lot of people can't put the two together. Like they're either like you either dick around or you work, but they're usually just sticking around. And I'm like, okay, but like me and my coworker now, she was actually one of my old employees. Like she worked for me almost every summer when I had the company,
Nice.
and I needed a repair guy to like help me. So I was like, hey, can we take her on? Because we work really well together. And we joke around all day
Yep.
while we're working. So we're like literally making fun of each other while we're cutting, while we're
Yeah.
nailing, we're just messing with each other, but like in like a wow, can you cut any slower? Are you sure
Honestly.
you're good? Like you suck. And we make each other faster because we're like almost in competition.
So yeah, I used to like I'd take a piece of scrap and I would take all my measurements of what I wanted and draw a picture or give like a cut list. And then like halfway through the list, it would be like your mom or something. Right. And then and you can tell it's like zing, 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 zing. And then it stops and you turn around, they're just glaring at you. You're just like, yeah, make sure you send that one or whatever. Right. Like when we were cutting with the grinders, I would like draw like a dick on the stud or whatever. Like, but everybody watching us, it just looked like we were fucking around all day.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't look like we were working at all, but we were
Yep.
out producing everyone because it's like,
Yep.
I'm here having a blast. And because I'm having a blast, look what we did today.
Yeah, it's like look at what I produced because I'm actually enjoying being here.
Exactly. I rant about that quite a bit on my Instagram where it's like, I don't understand why anyone stays somewhere where they don't want to be. Like
Mm-hmm.
you would eat shit for 6 months at a new place, maybe a year. And
Mm-hmm.
then how long does it take to master something? 5 years. So in 5 years, you could be living your perfect life. Why are you not doing that? Right. And I think the school system kind of teaches you this like terrible relationship with failure, where
Yeah.
like when you fail, that is like the end of the road. But that's the beginning, right? That's how I
Yeah.
got so good at everything. Like you need to be looking for it.
But just because
Um,
you fail at one thing doesn't mean you're going to fail at everything in your life. And that's what they need to teach you, or that
mhm.
failed to start something better.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's even Cam on the podcast, he's like, I wouldn't call that a fail. I'm like, listen, settle down. And so when you fail something, you just get back up and do it again till it's right. And that is the process. It's not you
Mhm.
give up.
No, it's
Um,
a learning curve.
yeah. And it I think a lot of people think they're stuck. You like, if you're not loving what you're doing, what the fuck are you doing it for?
Yeah.
You're never gonna make that much money. Um,
No.
I will never make enough money to be miserable. Never. If it's
No.
$1 million a year, I'm just not going to do it. I wake
Hmm.
up every day and decide to go to work, decide to have a good day, decide to be kind. Like I do those things every morning, but deciding to get up and go to work and have fun isn't part of that. I just do it because it's what
Yep.
I. It's like putting my socks on. We're not wearing socks today, and I don't. It's not on the checklist either, right?
Yeah. It's
It's
just something you do.
yeah. Yeah, that's why I kind of took that away from the podcast with Manny, was that you did enjoy doing what you were doing. And I feel like
I
the site,
love it.
yeah, the being a site super kind of sucks that out of you a little bit.
I know. That's why I'm like a little concerned about what I want to do because I don't love having so much stress on me. But I'm also like, that's for the future too. So maybe it'll be
Mhm.
different, but maybe something else will arise because like I never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing now. So
Totally.
You never know. 2 years from now, something could happen, 5 years, whatever. But my biggest thing that I do is like promote love what you do. Find a career that you're going to love because you're stuck with it your whole life. So you might as well love it.
Yeah, you literally. Yeah, that is the nice part about it. And it's a hell of an exit strategy to make
Yeah.
more money. Okay, you could do that. I think probably the last 10 years of my career, I'm going to dive into the shittiest situation possible for the most amount of money. That's just what I'm going to do because it's a finite amount of time, right? In, 4 more years and 3 more months and 2 more days, I'm done. And that's the way I'm going to look at it. It's anything shitty that I have to do. I just go, you are going to do this for the rest of your life till it's done. And once you look at it like that, it's simple. Just do it.
So you just want your retirement plan basically to be, I just dealt with shit, but now I'm retired.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a good
that
idea.
sucked, and just move on to it. I don't think I'm ever really going to retire, but I mean, like, bring in money and work every day. When I stop doing that, I'm always going to do. There's no way I can stop. When COVID happened, I was like taking apart bookshelves and putting them back together different and shit. Like I ran out of things to do. I was only home for 3 weeks.
Seriously?
And I made a giant garden in the back of my house. We threw $300 worth of plants in there. I went down to my daughter's place and built this great big stand-up garden with a fence and a big thing with a trellis for beans and all kinds of shit. And I like ran out of stuff to do. Everything was organized. And I was like, what now? What do you mean I can't go back to work?
I know. That's the thing. I'm a workaholic, but I didn't shut down for COVID, though. I didn't even have a day off.
See, that's awesome. Yeah.
I feel like I got more busy.
Well, I eventually did. I eventually left the company that put us down. I was doing a Pacini restaurant and we had just dug the hole. So we were just starting to put the foundation in. The guy that was digging the hole was such an idiot. Actually, I mentioned that on Manny's podcast. And he got the ministry involved, but they got into it with us because it was COVID and they were just trying to shut everyone down. That was like what their intentions were. So we got pretty far and then the company fired everybody or laid them off. And then we had a couple of sites still open and a specific few of us got to wrap them all up. But then once we wrapped them all up, there was nothing else to do, right? Because if you had, and I did, it was like tomorrow. The next day I had, it's not hard.
Not at all.
But then I actually got back in with I worked for a guy named Logan. And he started, a Rella Group. I don't know if you know them. They're great. But it had evolved quite a bit from where it was to what it is now. And I kind of came back for a bit. And they kept me going totally. And we just worked the whole way through. And it was like, well, we can't pay you what you're worth kind of thing, but we can keep you busy. And I was like, I don't care. I'll do this for free at this point. Like I didn't say it out loud, but yeah, like he was doing his parents' house and we took every wall out of the first floor. So we installed 3 I-beams, 4 I-beams. So 1 I-beam down into the basement and then one that came across and then 2 that carried over down into the one in the basement and opened up the whole first floor. And I effectively did that by myself. It was fucking great. Yeah, COVID was brutal, man. That 3 weeks at home, I can't not work. Yeah, like I'm gonna try and retire. Like hopefully by then I'll find some sort of a wife that has like a whistle, that it's just like, hey, stupid, stop, or whatever.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully is the thing.
I know. I'd like to have a wood shop or something. I'm gonna get into epoxy this summer. I'm gonna make a cool desk.
We can always just create like little projects and then sell them or keep you busy that way because there's
I think so.
A bunch of stuff to do.
Yeah, and like that's another big part of creating the community, right? Like there are always going to be things to do for the community. Like you could do teach outs or whatever, right? Like I talked to Cam about this. I'd like to eventually take the podcast on the road and like maybe like they've got these fucking buses that are podcast studios.
That's kind of cool.
I know there's a little bit of funding that's got to go behind that, but Yeah,
I mean, you can
I,
do
I,
it.
I would do that. Yeah. I think I'm going to start pitching people on that in a bit.
Yeah.
You really got to you really got to know what's going on, and there's a lot of planning. But I would love driving across the country, hitting a job site, staying for 3 days, and then just at the last day of the three, you just get obliterated, eat a good meal, and have like a 3 hour podcast. I would love that.
Yeah. You get to meet more people, see them in person. I like it.
Yeah, as much as this is great. When we went for wings the other day, we're like your best friends right away, right? Because
Mhm.
everybody kind of knows each other, but it's not the same as being in the same room.
Yeah.
And I definitely felt that with the construction pod. Did you go? I didn't watch it. I listened to it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
went to
totally
because it was
different.
Oakville or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we were
yeah,
actually like in the same room playing off each other, like because like virtual, like you can read each other's emotions, but like
yeah.
it's also delayed a second too. So
And that energy's not there either, right? Like you really feel it when you're in the room with somebody. Yeah,
yeah, like right now I'm like in my living room, but I'm sitting with my dog and I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah.
Like I'm trying to be all like peppy, but I mean I'm usually peppy, so
Well, yeah, you're doing a hell of a job for the fact that it's what, 8:30. Yeah. What time do
I
you get
know.
up?
I have to get up around 5:30 tomorrow, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Most of
seems
the
to
summer
be
I was having to get up at like 4 because I had to like drive around Hamilton to pick up so many people and then go to the job site, which was an hour away.
that's the worst.
I know. Because they're like, oh, well, you have to pick me up here. And I was like, wait, why do I have to pick you up? Why can't you meet me? And then I realized that and I was like, wow, I'm too nice.
Yeah. That there's a big gap of responsibility sometimes where you're like, it's my responsibility to lead these people. It's not my responsibility to get you to work.
Yeah.
That's bare minimum.
But they like almost make you feel that way. And then you're
Of
like,
course they
wait,
do. Yeah.
hold up. I'm employing you. You need to get to work.
Yeah, everybody's hard done by until you tell them no, and then they figure it out pretty quick. And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you figured that out, did you?" Yeah.
It wasn't that hard.
When I talk about Terry, it was like a $32 million build. It was a huge building, and
Mhm.
I was living in Paris, and the shop was in Cambridge. So I was going from Paris to getting up first, and then going to the shop, waiting around for like an hour for everyone to show up, and then you would drive them in, work a full day, drive them all home. You got to kind of do your little talk to everybody. If the owner was there, then you got to talk to him. It's, you don't have to. And then driving
Yeah.
back to Paris, they were like, 14-hour days for what?
Yep.
I only got to work for 6 hours of it because you get pulled in every direction, right? It was brutal.
I know. I'm big on working long hours because I'd
Mhm.
rather like I say I'd rather work only 4 days a week and then I end up working the same amount of hours, like 14 hours, and then working
Mhm.
6 to 7 because I just can't stop.
Yeah, they call that
But
lying to yourself
I do it every day.
every day. Yeah. Yeah, it's
You know, this weekend ends up working.
but about 3 hours into it, you hit this like flow. And
Hmm.
and then in the next like 4 hours or 5 hours, you're like doubling what you would have done you know what I mean? Like once you kind of get
Yeah.
into that, where it seems like everything's going right. And then you're like, what the fuck would I stop for now? I used to give myself a 2 mistake. So if I made a stupid mistake, like you 1 inch yourself,
Mhm.
that I know I'm starting to get tired. If
Yeah.
if if it's 1 inch too much or 1 inch too less, when it's too less, I get so mad because I can't just recut it.
No, you
Right.
gotta go and get a whole
I
new
know.
piece.
I'm like, well, I guess you're blocking and pitch it. But yeah, if I make 2 mistakes, I go home. But on
It's
a good day,
actually doable.
oh, it is
Yeah.
because you can do a 16-hour day and then come back and do an hour's worth of fixes. Why?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Or I think the worst is like when you don't have a good crew and you're literally just like pulling them behind you and you're just like,
Yeah,
why?
or an anchor. It's terrible.
Yeah. And they don't want to work and they don't want to do anything. Like as soon as I worked, it was like 10 hours with these like one crew for this summer that I had. As soon as you work 10 hours, they would shut down. And if you worked any longer, they'd shut down for 3 days. And you're like, go stay home. Like, don't come with me.
Yeah, burnout's a real thing. And I used to tell guys just to stay home. Like, sorry,
Yeah.
dude, you're no good. come back in 2 days. It is what it is.
You don't
Okay.
have the stamina, I get it.
We're getting super close to the end. It's very sad.
Okay.
You got shout outs you want to do, or?
I'm very bad under pressure.
Okay. Shout out to the guy in Vegas she doesn't know.
Yeah.
I think we hit them. Stabila. Yeah. Okay.
We did most of the brands.
I think so. You mentioned
We
a
did,
lot of them.
yeah, we did people that we both know.
All your social medias are the same. Girls Can Frame.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's easier that way.
Simple enough. Yeah. All of mine's are probably dad. I didn't even know what to call the podcast. And I was like, I call it the podcast. I don't call it anything else. But if somebody's going to search it, I know exactly what they're going to put in, right? They're not going to, nobody knows what my name is. Like,
yeah.
It's just the way that it is.
No, that's the thing. Everyone knows you by your handle. Like everyone was coming up to me in Las Vegas and they're like, "Oh, your Girls Can Frame. What's your name?"
Yeah. But that's good. That means that you have a good brand. How do we buy your merch?
Okay, so I had a store, but it was getting expensive because like it wasn't really selling. So right now it's kind of like message me. I'm trying to get another store up and running. I just haven't had the time.
Okay. Like a
Yeah, I know it's
storefront?
complicated. It was with Shopify, but it was like
Oh, that's fine.
$50 a month or something. So I'm trying to get an Etsy
Jesus.
account going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
'Cause it's cheaper.
Awesome. So do you have like
I'll update
boxes?
you.
What's that?
I'll update you once I
Yeah,
have it all.
absolutely. Make sure you do. Make sure you do. Do you have like boxes in your garage of them, or do you just get them made as you make them, or?
I have boxes at my parents' house because I only have a basement apartment, so I
That's
don't have
what
that much
parents are for.
space.
Don't let them tell you
Yeah,
any different. All the shit that
yeah,
you don't want at your house, that's what their house is for.
that's what I tell them.
Except with my kids when they get older. That'll be very different.
What you
Anyways,
said.
it was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, fuck, no problem. This was great. And there's always a free chair here. If you got something you want to talk about, no problem.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've started doing podcasts with two separate people. Like so it's three, and that they end up being fun. So yeah, I might reach out if there's one that looks like it's gonna make sense.
Definitely. That would be fun.
Okay. Brittany Farrow, Girls Can Frame. Check her out on all of the things except Facebook because you people are terrible. All right. Be humble, treat everyone the same, and do your fucking job.